Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Catholic Education Foundation podcast number 10. Super excited about this one. We have some awesome guests today. Mr. Tony Vanetti. Tony is the co-host of the Tony and Dwight Show on WHAS 840 Radio. And then Miss Julie Baum. Julie is the vice president of the Catholic Education Foundation of Louisville, now in her 17th year with the foundation. That's dating you a little bit, Julie.
No.
17, man.
I'm allowed to ask.
Wow. All right. So, Tony,
Yes, sir.
You're a well-known personality in town. You often openly talk about your Catholic faith and your Catholic education.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about your family and your beginnings here in Louisville?
Yeah, that's easy to talk about. My parish was St. Albert the Great. They took the great part off, and we used to get made fun of all the time when we go play a football game. It was like, oh, it's not just St. Albert's, it's St. Albert the Great is here. But we had a lot of fun.
We used to do that too.
Right, okay. So the Vikings, I didn't have a normal experience in grade school at St. Albert's because my parents were at school almost every single day, all right?
Yeah.
So there are four of us. So I have three siblings, three sisters, and we were all at St. Albert's at the same time. So there was at least two den mothers for each class, right?
Okay.
So my mother was den mother for all four of us every year run through. She was also the Girl Scout leader, youth group leader, cheerleading coach, and my dad coached the football team.
So they were there constantly.
All the time, and then helped run the gym and the concessions and all that. So my parents, everyone in school knew Mr. and Mrs. V. Mr. and Mrs. V. Dad would drive the bus to Kings Island for the youth group, right? We would just we'd call Harry Jansen over at Trinity and say, can we take the football bus?
Right.
And Harry would go, yeah, just make sure you fill it with gas. Like there was no paperwork, Dad would just go over, pick up the keys are in it. He would, and Dad would drive the Trinity football bus to Kings Island. So I didn't have a normal experience. I didn't just go to school there. I was there all the time. My parents were there all the time. We were involved. It was just, and I think obviously that was imprinted on myself because later I'm sure we'll talk about my experience with Holy Trinity and how that translated with that. But I've always talked about that it's just so much more than the academics, right? So the principal was Mrs. Pohl. I believe she just passed away 2 years ago or 3 years ago. She was a fantastic woman. She knew how to handle a young Tony Vanetti as the principal at St. Albert's, but I couldn't do too much. Julie's giving me the look already. I couldn't do. My parents were there all the time, so I couldn't do too much. But she was fantastic. Miss Whaley was the music teacher, and she taught there the longest tenure at St. Albert's. I ran into her at one of the picnics, and she goes, I only remember one or two kids, Tony Vanetti and this other guy. And I go, well, that Tony Vanetti guy's pretty nice. She didn't recognize, she didn't know.
That's funny.
I was older, right? I was like, I think he's a nice boy too. And she goes, yeah, I hear that. So I love that St. Albert's group, and we were there from the beginning to a long time, and I love all those folks there. Mrs. Franklin, Mrs. Pohl, Miss Boland, 5th grade teacher. Thank you for being my advocate when I was struggling in math in 5th grade. You're fantastic. And Miss Whaley, the music teacher, all there. Father O'Brien was the priest there back in the old days.
Sure.
So I did many a Hail Mary and for Father O'Brien.
So Tony, I'm the athletic director over at Ascension, and really it just becomes part of who you are.
Yeah.
It just becomes a fabric of your everyday life. And obviously, your parents were super involved, and now you got super involved in Catholic faith. It just becomes who you are. It's just it's a way of life.
It is. It's imprinted on you, and I wouldn't want it any other way, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't. Even if I said, I'm not going to do anything, you're sitting there, you're going to go do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, you're going to go do it.
Yeah.
So, Julie, the foundation has formed a great partnership with Tony, obviously. Can you talk about some of the ways Tony has helped the foundation grow?
Sure. So, we just celebrated our 15th Salute to the Game luncheon. And 15 years ago, I was on staff, was one of the people that kind of got that first one going. We made $25,000. We had maybe 400 people, 300 people in the room. But my good, dear friend, John Asher, was one of the founders of the luncheon.
Rest his soul.
Rest his soul. And he was instrumental in making sure that that luncheon grew and continued to grow every year. Unfortunately, in 2018, we lost John. It actually was 1 month right before the luncheon. We lost him in August. And we mourned him. He was a great advocate of Catholic education, and we mourned that loss with the community. However, I had a void to fill. So after the funeral, I said, I have to find somebody to do this luncheon in 3 weeks. So I make this joke. It's not that funny anymore, but that we had a list of 5 people, and Tony was my 5th call. And he finally said yes.
Yeah.
But really, we to be truthful, we came around a group of us trying to figure out who's going to fill John's shoes. Right? You can't fill John Asher's shoes.
Sure.
But at the same time, we've got to have somebody lead this. And Tony's outspokenness for the mission of the Catholic faith has always been at the forefront, and he speaks very openly about it. And his involvement at Holy Trinity, his dedication to his church and to the kids there, teaching, coaching. And we thought, we'll take a chance on this guy. Now, I had to keep him in the rails. We had a big meeting. He didn't think I was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, you were like, don't do this, do this, do this. I was like, look, I know the audience. We'll figure it out. I think these are my people. We'll be fine. But yes, you talked me into doing it. I said yes right away.
Yes.
I was like, of course I will. Yes.
Well, being involved with the lunch prior to you being the host, Tony, it was a different vibe. It was a John Asher was the uber professional, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was incredible at what he did. But you came along and added some humor and added a little bit more of kind of a fun vibe to it. Not for better or for worse. It was just a different vibe.
It's different, yeah.
And it was, obviously, I think a lot of people appreciated it too.
Look, it takes a lot of guts to replace John Asher in anything.
Yep.
I thought so much of him. He was not just a broadcaster for us and won so many Eclipse Awards for WHAS that before he went to Churchill Downs, when I heard, actually, you told me that John said, Tony Vanetti, probably, if I don't do it forever, Vanetti's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
That meant a lot to me. And I said, yes, I will do that. But sometimes when you follow Elvis, you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, it's tough.
But when I varied from the script every once in a while, you could see Rich and Julie going, what are you doing?
Wait a minute,
don't worry about it.
Stay on course.
I know where the boat's going. Don't worry.
Where's the mute button?
But I will say, when he said yes to us, it formed a new partnership and a good friendship. And Tony is part of our team now. He certainly is part of our team, and we're happy to have him. And he can say the answer is yes just as well as the rest of us.
Thank you.
Now, Julie, you don't know this story, but I'm not allowed in E-Town anymore because of Tony. We won't get into that.
We won't get into that
but
story.
there is a story there.
Sorry, E-Town.
All right. So, Tony, during your Catholic grade school days, who are some of the influencers who taught you or coached you? And what did you learn from them that was truly valuable?
So what I learned, and I mentioned a couple of them from St. Albert's, Mrs. Pohl, Miss Franklin, Mrs. Boland, Miss Borland. Look, if you don't have, I was middle of the road academic. So you got to have teachers that you're advocate, right? So they got to look. The smart kids are the smart kids. They're going to get 100. They're the good teachers. Focus on the kids that you raise those middle ones up, right? That's how you do that.
100%.
But more importantly, it is the base of faith base and family, and that's the key for parishes. It's the key for Catholic Education Foundation. It is a family issue. You're raising the level of your family. And here's the issue. Bad things are going to happen to you in your life.
Sure.
You're going to have financial troubles. You are going to get divorced, possibly, God forbid. You're going to lose family members. And if you have that base, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay because no one escapes all that stuff. We all kind of go through it. But if you have that strong base, that religious, that Catholicism, that Catholic base, where you learn from these folks, and the teachers just care. Sorry, it's different. The teacher, the parent involvement is just on a different level than any other school system. And I've said it at the luncheon. It'll be the second year in a row. The Catholic, the Archdiocese school system of 39 schools in this city is the #1 school district in the state. Argue with me. I'll do it all day with you. I can argue with you all day long. I do this topic on the radio all the time. But if you have that base, because that's the difference, if you have that base, you can weather all the storms of life.
Sure. Amen. And I tell you, Tony, there was an unthinkable tragedy, and I've mentioned it on this podcast a few times. It happened to a kid here in the Archdiocese, and the family called and said, hey, listen, we just can't send the kid to Catholic schools anymore. Rich and Julie caught wind of this, and they said, absolutely not.
Right.
No, we were making sure this kid stays because this is the most important thing.
Yep.
It's for him to stay in Catholic schools.
Yep.
And that's what the CEF does, right? I mean, they step up, and it's such an important piece of it's a fabric of our community.
It raises your family level from here to here, right?
Yeah.
And then guess what that family member is going to do? Pull the rest with them.
Yeah.
And then now that family mark is going in a different direction, right?
Which is why it's so important what the CEF does. So you're a 1986 graduate of Trinity High School.
Don't age me. 87.
87. Well,
Thank
look
you,
at that.
Julie.
Well, come on. Somebody got it wrong on my paper here.
Yes.
All right, and you're such a big cheerleader for Trinity. Tell us how your Trinity High School experience has made a difference in your life.
Trinity changed my life. The teachers there, I can't even really describe the impact that Trinity has on kids and boys and to men, boys to men, for sure. You walk in at 13 years old, and you leave at 18. Tell me a bigger swath of years that you grow as a man into a man than that. Trinity takes care of everybody, right? They're inclusive. Trinity's inclusive. If you want to be better, then you can be a rock, right? I had teachers that looked at me when I was really struggling and said, we're not going to allow you to be the person you think you are because you're not that guy. We're going to point you in this direction. They don't have to do that. Yeah. I mean, seriously, I got wind to it my senior year. There was actually a couple of teachers that got together. It was the 80s. I was having a good time. They were like, hey, we need to take care of Vanetti this year. Like, let's get Vanetti there, right? So, like, what other school district does that where the teachers are like, we got to get Vanetti straightened out? So, and of course, senior retreat was amazing. But they find an amazing way to sort of customize your experience. Yep. Which is, how do you do that for 1,400 kids? Right. It's the largest private school in the state, and it's an amazing experience. But Rob Mullen is the best teacher I ever had. He was a teacher before he was president.
Oh, so he was the best teacher you ever had, really?
Okay, here's my like crowning jewel. So my 25th reunion, I'm standing in the back, and Rob Mullen walks in, and he goes, okay, who had my theology class? We called it religion class back then. Who had my religion class with Vanetti and a guy named Bruce Lindsay? And like 3 or 4 people raised their hand. Bruce. And Rob Mullen goes, that was the funnest class I've had in at the time, 30 years teaching, right? And I was like, yes.
Except I don't think he said funnest.
No, whatever. Most fun, whatever. See, she's grading me already. And Rob Mullen's going, Tony. But I was like, yes, my job here is done.
Right.
Because he raised my level. I think I got 100 in that class. He nailed it. He was the best teacher I ever had. Ken Ellenbrand was my football coach as a freshman. He was the wrestling coach. His impact as a history teacher and a guy like I wanted to be him, right? Like I was like, I want to be a history teacher and some sort of coach. Like I wanted it. And then I found the other job.
Right, sure.
But he impacted me like you wouldn't believe. There were so many. Miss Delaney, Jean Delaney impacted me. She was my English teacher. And the reason I'm in the media is because they had newspapers delivered to the school. Like for the first time ever, they had 15 newspapers delivered to our classroom every day. Huh. And then we wrote a paper on an article in the newspaper. Okay. We had to choose an article. And I got addicted to the media. I got addicted to current events. I got addicted to the way media writes. The media writes a column much different than if you're writing an
essay.
Correct. So I got addicted to that. And Jean Delaney, I love you. Thank you so much. I think she lives in Florida now. But thank you so much because that on that path set me on that path. Coach Fowler, God rest his soul. I mean, Coach Joe Bryant. I could list 25 teachers right now.
Sure.
But here's the great thing about Trinity. I was in a level of academia, and then that was lower. My son went in at the top of his class. He literally graduated at the top of his class a couple of years ago. He took care of both of us.
Yeah. I tell you, and as you saw from the lunch, the kids that we're highlighting from these schools, how impressive are these guys?
Right.
Unbelievable.
Noah and Teddy are both last name Meyer, not related, obviously. But Noah, what a great kid. His dad graduated from Trinity. And then I've known Teddy and his parents since Teddy was in...
Now, he's a Holy Trinity kid, right?
He's a Holy Trinity kid. And Nancy and Nick Meyer. Nick is from Bowling Green. So you saw at the luncheon the connection between Nick Meyer's grandfather's is the football office is named after him in Bowling Green, where Wallace came from. But so Noah is so impressive. Top of his class, Dartmouth.
Yeah, how about that?
I mean, come on, man.
I know.
I mean, and Teddy can choose where he wants to go.
Well, and then these two senior class presidents get together.
George Free, his parents were Wagner guys.
Yep.
And they got smart and said, I'm sending my sons to Trinity.
Oh, they got smart.
But George Free is a state champion wrestler. He's the only state champion out of the city of Louisville, and he's the senior class president. That are getting together for that impact for Dare to Care.
For tackling hunger. And you and Dwight just hosted your radio show at the campus of Holy Trinity.
Yes.
Kind of in support of this whole tackling hunger, which I just think is amazing. These kids. And Louis Straub on the spot when we were at Wave 3 Listens donated $2,000, one to each school, saying, "Hey, this is impressive. You guys are unbelievable."
That's it.
So I mean, it's just these kids are. I tell you, I think
they know they're privileged.
They know
they're privileged, and they want to give back.
They want to give back.
That's the best part about it.
But they're so well spoken, and their heart's in the right place, and you can tell they've been impacted by faith in Catholic schools, and it's just it's pretty amazing what this system's creating.
Julie, don't you agree?
Absolutely. I think that really the schools coming together, and especially during rivalry week.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No.
And making a difference in our community for others that need it. To your point, those boys know that they
don't ever want for a meal.
No. What is given, much is expected.
That's right.
And so they live that. And I think at 18 to realize that
pretty crazy
is amazing.
Yep.
So, Tony, how did your media career get started?
Oh, I met a guy that was doing afternoon drive for WQMF. At the time, it was the big rock station. Them and LRS were the big stations. And he asked me to come down to the radio station and write some jokes for him. I did that. And then I said, oh.
But why back up one. Yeah. Why was he asking you to come write jokes? How did you get to that spot?
I was in a circle of people, and I was doing the Frank Sinatra.
Okay, all right. I got you.
Tracking everybody up thing, and he came over and said, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I don't know. Who are you?" So I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And he said, "Can you come down next day and write some jokes?" I said, "Sure." And then about halfway through that, I said, "You get paid to do this?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You mind if I stick around?" He said, "Yeah." So basically, in this part, sorry, all my Bishop Spalding and everybody else, I lied to the receptionist for 2 weeks to come and sit in this radio station. So I went to the jock room and I sat for 2 weeks, and I knew if I didn't say anything, at some point they're going to need somebody to drive the van or do something.
Right?
So I sat in the jock room and didn't speak, and people would come in. Jocks would go, "Who's the guy in the room?" And I would just sit there, even if they, I just didn't talk. And literally somebody said, "I need somebody to drive the van to Dixie Highway." I said, "I can do it." I get back, they're waiting for me at the door. They're like, "You don't even work here."
And
I said, "Yeah, I know. You want me to leave?" They're like, "Well, no, you drove the van. Might as well hire you. Might as well hire you." So I started part-time and basically got people coffee and lunch.
Yeah.
Drove the van.
Yeah.
And then they elevated me to remote engineer, which I drove the van. And then when they gave me my first shot of turning the mic up, and then I did this, they were like, "Oh, okay." It was just something.
You can talk.
Sometimes people, they find what their thing is. That was me.
Well, and so that's how it started. But now you're hosting this uber popular show on 840 WHAS. How did it get to where it is today?
Well, I had to reinvent myself. At some point, I was doing rock radio. When we were all around for that.
Yep.
But my kids were small, and I can't be in a bar. I can't be out late. I can't do concerts.
Right.
So I told them, and this is what my family meant to me. I said, "You either movie to the AM and talk, or I'm going to go sell paint or something else."
Yeah, I got to do something different.
I can't do something different. I got to do something. This doesn't line up with family.
Mm-hmm.
So they went, "What about sports?" So I went to 790 WKRD and became
Afternoon Underdogs.
The Afternoon Underdogs, which became the most successful sports show in the history of the city. I'm not making that up.
Just saying.
I've got
just saying in the history of the world.
In the history of the planet, right? So, and then when that started to, sports started to take another tumble.
Yeah.
We won't discuss what U of L has been dealing with.
Yeah.
So I said, I got to get out of this.
Right.
So I went to HAS, and we brought Dwight off the bench from sales.
And he was in sales. And honestly, when I was doing business with you guys, he was the sales rep. And, and you could always tell this guy was destined for a little bit more, right?
Yes. And I felt like the coach going, come on, off the bench.
Let's go.
And he said, "Let's go." And we did the 6 to 8. And then when we had to reshuffle, they moved us to 9 to noon. And it's been great. And I got to tell you, I know that we have a different type of entertainment. We stay away from national politics.
Yeah.
We will talk local politics, and we want to have fun. beyond. We believe people need a break from the divisiveness of the national politics.
And Dwight certainly has a
passion.
Passion.
Yeah,
passion's the right word.
A good word. So he has a passion. I'm more laid. I'm the adult, which is insane.
Right.
That I'm the adult. I have to control Dave and Dwight and say that's enough. But we are. I will tell you this: our highest listening group are women over 60.
No, it's not.
I swear to God.
Is it really?
Oh, we have very high ratings. Thank you. He's so humble. So our high, you would not believe the older women that stop us. But
really?
So I asked, I said, can you break out the older women numbers? And they're like, oh, we didn't realize you're across the board. Women over 60, you're number one.
Well, Julie, I'm pretty sure that's probably the highest demographic in Catholic masses too, right?
Yeah, so I don't know why are you thinking about discerning into a deacon? Maybe?
You know what? Don't tempt me.
He'd be good at that, man. Can you imagine him up there preaching every Sunday?
Here's the thing. I don't want to do her confession.
You don't get to do my confession as a deacon.
It would be short. It would be so short. We wouldn't have anything to talk about, Julie.
Correct.
Couple Hail Marys
is what it would be.
Angelic.
Thank you.
All right, Tony. You and your wife Jackie have 2 children.
Correct.
John and Maggie. Tell us about your kids and then how your Catholic faith played into raising your children.
Holy Trinity. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
It's the greatest run we've had in our lives. Holy
Well,
Trinity.
you live kind of close.
Yes. You've been over there. Julie's been over several times. We've done the radio show on our back porch. We've done the CEF on the back porch before because I live on Holy Trinity property. If you walk out my back door, it is Holy Trinity property, and that's how it's easy for us to be involved. But Jackie is an alkalite, so she's involved. She helps.
An alka what?
Alkalite.
I know. You might want to explain that. It sounded
I'm sorry.
like
Alkalite is
not alcoholic. Alkalite.
No, alkalite. And alkalite. Alkalite wears the white robe, standing next to the priest, and kind of controls the altar persons.
The altar people.
Yeah, right?
They
altar.
help, yes.
I'm 53. I have 53. I say altar boys, but that's not it's boys and girls.
Right.
So so she does that. And John and Maggie ran through Holy Trinity, and we had the greatest run with the greatest set of teachers that set our 2 kids up, not just academically, and the level of academics at Holy Trinity is second to none. They always vie. They always battle, St. Albert's and St. Pat's for and Margaret Mary for the top academics marks, but the teacher involvement is crazy.
Yeah, there's a great staff there. And it starts with great leadership.
It really does. Mr. Richards is, and he's been there since, I don't know, if I think he's been there for our run. It's like 20 years.
Jack's been there for a long time.
It's been crazy how long he's been there. He's been Ashley Davenport is everything.
Yeah, they're so energetic. It's infectious.
Yes, that's it. But here's what I tell every parent that goes over there. Because I was apprehensive, right? I was wanting to keep everybody arm's length, and I was like, what do we want to do here? And Jackie was like, no, I've signed you up for everything. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is kindergarten, first grade stuff. Right. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Best decision of our lives. Just get involved. I don't know anything about soccer. No one cares. Just sign up for soccer. I don't know anything about football. No one cares. Sign up to be a coach.
Right.
Volleyball. No one cares. Go sign up.
Yeah.
Work the luncheons. Go to mass on Wednesday morning. Get involved with everything you can because that's all the stuff you'll remember anyway. That just being on campus is the only stuff you remember. When we talk about those times, we'll only talk about what I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Nothing, schools and all that. Yeah, everybody's smart kids, and you roll through. Now, and I've said this at the luncheon. Excuse me. I said this at the luncheon also. Both presidents of St. X and Trinity, Sacred Heart, Presentation,
Mercy,
Assumption. Yes.
Assumption.
Do you know how they enjoy those kids hitting the ground running? From those presidents understand that the Archdiocese sets those kids up for success. First day freshman year, Holy Trinity was that way. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Maggie crushed it. John, that's what he does. So he crushed it. He's a sophomore at Purdue, aerospace engineering. So he's
aerospace. Okay.
Yeah, so he's doing okay. And but that all started at Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
And and I tell Jackie, I'm like, this is the greatest run. And then look, it's not all, you're going to have issues. When everyone in the room is a type A, it's going to be an argument every once in a while, but that's when success happens. If everyone's not having a healthy discussion on things, you're not winning. And Holy Trinity is a winning operation, and I got to tell you, it is the best decision for the last 20 years. And here's the thing. Our kids have been gone. I just told you, a senior in high school at Sacred Heart and a sophomore at Purdue. We're still over there doing everything right? Because we want to. Yeah. Right?
It's incredible, man. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm getting goosebumps here you talk about it because it's what I'm living right now.
Yeah.
I'm so involved in my parish, and I wouldn't have it any other way. No. And I think that's what you're going to remember, right?
Yes, that's all you're going to remember, really.
I totally agree.
Do you remember if he got what grade he got in whatever class? No.
No, it's good. You're going to remember
got straight A's. So.
Well, here's the other thing. You get to know all of the kids at the school, so you know all their friends.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And I will tell you one more thing that I love about Holy Trinity is that we live in the cut-through. So the whole neighborhood cuts through our yard to go to school.
Okay.
Okay. So at first, Jackie was like, are we going to allow this? And I was like, yes, we are. So now, and Julie's, you all have seen the setup.
Oh, yeah.
With the TVs. So we watch college football, and kids ride their bikes through to go to school.
The cut-throughs right there.
And the cut-through, and they'll go, Mr. Vanetti, what's the score? And I'll yell it out, and you're part of the whole thing.
That's awesome.
I love that part.
That's awesome.
I really think, though, you can hear the passion in his voice. That's why Tony believes in the Catholic Education Foundation, because the opportunity your kids had, you and Jackie sacrificed, but you could afford it. Not every family has that opportunity, and they can't afford it. And that's when the foundation steps in and helps families.
Now you're going to get me on. Do I have time for the Catholic Education Foundation?
Let's go.
Okay, Catholic Education Foundation. I want you to think about the impact of 3,600 children that are raising their level and going to Catholic school and changing their lives, right? So let's break that down. Name another. When you take $1 and you give it to the Catholic Education Foundation, this is real change. How many times have you and I done charity events? When you not know, I'm throwing this money in a giant bucket. Are they really doing research? How much money goes to the research? How much of this party goes to the actual
Tony, we did a concert together. It was for a fundraiser for a local media guy who said he had cancer, and his guy didn't have cancer.
Oh no, it was ALS.
Oh, it was ALS. That's what it was. That's what it was. But it was like you're right. To your point,
you don't know where. But with Catholic Education Foundation, that dollar is you are changing people's lives. I went to St. James and spent the day at St. James. And St. James, a teacher said those two over there are brothers, and they were playing on the playground. And I said, what's their story? And they said, well, their apartment burned down last night. They're not sure where they were going to spend the night that night. These are the type of kids that Catholic Education Foundation says, we're going to change your life. We're gonna change. I get a little emotional about it because you meet these kids, right?
Yeah.
You want to cry because these kids, I mean, okay, so I told the story at the luncheon. You ever turn on the TV and you see the saddest story about a family and they have kids, and the thing that pops in your head as you go, like, those kids have no chance.
Yeah.
Those kids have no chance. The Catholic Education Foundation steps in, fills the gap, gives those two kids you just saw on that sad story a chance.
So there was a couple kids that a bunch of parents was in one of my son's classes at Ascension, and a bunch of parents didn't like one of the kids, and they wanted him removed from the school.
Yeah.
And the principal said, "Let me tell you something. This school's the only chance these kids got.
Yeah.
So they have to stay here,
right?
Because if we go send them to somewhere else, then it's over for these kids.
They fall between the cracks, Julie, and
Absolutely.
they get lost.
They do, and we, part of what the foundation does. We help families fill in that gap, but we help families that go through hardship. They're in the middle of a divorce, of a sudden death in the family, major loss of income, and the parents' first reaction is pull them out of school because school's too expensive. And we say the one place they need to be is school.
100%.
They need to have that stability and that structure and the people that care about them. And I've heard story after story where principals, teachers, parents in the community have stepped up to help these families. And so, what we do is a small part in making sure they can stay there, but then the community rallies around them, and it's, it's life-changing. It really is.
And here's the other big thing. This is not government-based.
Right.
This is grassroots.
Yep.
This is Catholics and people helping people.
Yep.
Right?
And organizations in the city of Louisville understanding what they're investing in.
It was an idea. And that's just what this country has been built on, is an idea. And now look at what it is. With John Asher and Rich Lecklider and Julie all together decided, what about this idea? And she just told you, first one was we raised $25,000. You do... How much was Friday or Thursday?
Well, so Julie, let me ask you that question here. So, we just hosted a blowout salute to the game luncheon. It was at the Galt House Hotel on September 22nd. It was a new fundraising record. Tell us about it.
Well, raising $500,000 2 years ago was quite a feat, especially in the middle of COVID.
Oh yeah.
But this year we were so blessed to beat that by $550,000.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And it was an amazing event, great for our community to come together. Tony did a fabulous job. Again, injecting the humor, but also having everybody in that room understand the importance of raising those funds, because those funds, guys, go right back out to help families.
Yeah.
We're not, that money, every time that we get it in, it's going right back out. We're helping 3,600 kids this year, $7.7 million with our funding partners. We need every dime that comes in at that luncheon to make sure that we can have the resources to continue to help families as they come to us. And more and more families we're seeing are looking at the possibility of Catholic education that never thought about it before. So to us, that is transformational for not only the student, but the family, as you talked about.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So, Tony, you followed the work of the foundation for years, and Julie's kind of explaining it right now. And Julie, you're in your 17th year of the foundation. Did either of you ever think that the foundation could grant a scholarship to every single qualifying family for 8 straight years? How awesome is that?
When Rich came to the foundation, he said, we were in his office talking, and he said, we should say the answer is yes. And I said, you can't tell people that because you don't know that it's going to be.
Was that really your response?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's exactly what I said.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Said, you can't.
She doesn't hold back. I don't know if you noticed that.
That's true. I have noticed.
Yeah.
But no, I said, you can't tell people that because you don't know if that's going to be true. Yeah. And he said, it absolutely will be. And for 8 years, it has been. And when I started at the foundation, we had to send letters to people that said, you qualify, but we don't have enough money to fund you. And I can't imagine what it must feel like to fill out an application and ask for help and somebody to say, we hear you need help, but we can't give you help. And we haven't had to do that for 8 years. And that has been what a blessing. What a blessing that we are able to do that. And we could not do that without our donors. I mean, we have amazing donors who we get new donors. We have donors who continue to step up.
Yeah.
And I really think that they are seeing the impact of these children and these students as they're moving on into high school and college.
I will say this. These kids that get the opportunity, they're not like me and you, dude. They understand. And right?
Yes.
Well, the effort and the grades and, and the issue, if they had one, they're gone. They understand what the opportunity. They know I'm not screwing this up. I'm going to make this happen. Good grades, no issues. That's the thing.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I tell you who else has been a godsend, Julie, is Rich Lecklider.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Rich has been, obviously he's changed kind of the fabric of what the foundation's been and really got all of these huge organizations in the city of Louisville involved. It's been pretty remarkable what he's been able to do as well.
Yeah, Rich came to the foundation, I think it's been 9 or 10 years ago. And, as the story goes, which is true, I had been at the foundation for several years, and I thought, when the executive director retired, I would kind of move on to my next thing. And Rich had been our board chair. So I knew his level of
so you knew
commitment, we can say, and passion.
Right.
Level of commitment.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's fantastic. Okay. He's a detail-oriented person, right?
Well,
very much so.
Yeah.
But we ended up being a great team, working well together. I kind of knew the ins and outs of the foundation and what we did. He was able to really bring in the dollars so that we didn't have to send out those no letters anymore. And that was
it's fantastic.
Truly changing for me, and just kind of been there ever since. And not say, well, there's 6 of us in the office.
Yeah.
It's not always sunshine and rainbows,
Sure.
but it's worth it every minute.
Well,
100%.
what I said earlier, Holy Trinity and all that. If everything is calm and no one's you're not getting after it, you're not winning. There has to be. He set a standard and didn't demand. He demanded that we're doing this, and if we do just this, there's problems. So Rich Lecklider, when he came in, you're exactly right. You go to $550,000 at a luncheon, $7.7 million, and 3,600 kids. Because yes, Julie and Rich are a lot more alike than she likes to admit.
Not true.
But you all demand perfection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's how you get there, because it is about kids.
Well, and people understand that this organization's not messing around either. They understand that you donate to this organization, it's going to be used properly.
That's right.
Absolutely.
All right, so you're both Catholic school kids all the way through high school. This is the last question for each of you. What would each of you say to your audience about that experience and why it's so important, not only to you, but to this community?
I've answered that, Julie. Let's listen to Julie.
I went to St. Raphael Grade School, Assumption High School, right across the parking lot. And my daughter is at Assumption right now. My boys went to Trinity. A phenomenal just experience for all of us. But Assumption's one of their, and I'm not going to say this exactly right, but they have their mission statement, which uses words like integrity, compassion, faith. And when I was 16, I didn't realize all of those things were happening in that building every day,
right?
But they certainly were. And as Tony said, and I'm a firm believer in this, in your life, bad things are going to happen. Tough times are going to come. And if you have faith, if you're treating people with dignity and respect, you can always hold your head high and you'll come out of the muck and your life will go on. And as long as you're helping other people and being a good person, treating people with love and kindness, this world would be a better place. And I think Catholic schools teach that gospel message, which is what? Love each other like God loves you. And
it takes a while. Like she mentioned 16-year-old Julie, 16-year-old Tony, and I think my story is very similar to a lot of people that are watching this, possibly, to where I was all involved. I got in my 20s. I didn't go to a parish. I stopped going to church. And it went until I had kids. And everyone's going, oh, yeah, that was us too. We had kids and we go, okay, let's pick a parish. I said, well, let's not go back to St. Albert's. Let's go to Holy Trinity, because that's where we're going to live. But I think people take that gap. And then you realize the impact that the parishes and the high school had on you, because you get older and you're like, now when you tear up seeing Ken Ellenbrand and Rob Mullen, and you tear up because now you realize the impact. And I try to tell my kids that when I would see a Bundiak, a Mr. Bundiak at Trinity for my son, and I go, you understand he's your Ken Ellenbrand.
Sure.
He was, you think? And I was like, you don't know it now.
You
but
will,
it will be.
Right.
Yeah.
You will, though. Tony, help me with this outro here. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. And Tony, the tagline, so at the Catholic Education Foundation.
The answer is yes.
That was fun, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.